U.S. Treasury Secretary Janet Yellen is in China, but how difficult is it for her to mend bridges? We bring you an overview of what's straining U.S. China ties. 2 packages labeled as beauty products full of drugs from China and headed for Washington, D.C. Border Patrol says officers seized the packages on arrival at the airport. More on Vietnam's Barbie movie ban, with Warner Bros. Now denying that its new film is getting political. January 1st, 2024, the start of a new TikTok-free era in Montana. But does the upcoming ban violate the First Amendment like the app claims? What do you think? Let us know below and subscribe if you haven't already. Welcome to China in Focus. I'm Tiffany Meyer. Treasury Secretary Janet Yellen is in Beijing. She's the first of her post to visit China in 5 years, and her trip is surrounded by new action from the Chinese regime, rattling American businesses in the country. How big of an impact will the visit have on the spiraling relations? Here's a closer look.
U.S. Treasury Secretary Janet Yellen met with American business leaders in Beijing on Friday. As tensions mount between the two countries, Yellen said that the U.S. is not looking to decouple from China.
We seek to diversify and not to decouple. The decoupling of the world's 2 largest economies would be destabilizing for the global economy, and it would be virtually impossible to undertake.
She's one of the U.S. officials tasked with trying to repair U.S.-China ties. But what are the problems that could make that a challenge? And what's keeping them going right now? Here's a breakdown. The 2 superpower economies are deeply intertwined. China is the 2nd largest foreign holder of U.S. debt, while America remains China's single largest trading partner. But amid the ongoing U.S.-China trade war, Beijing's raids on American businesses and possible restrictions on investments in China are presenting a problem for American companies. Let's zoom in on American businesses operating in China. Just recently, Beijing raided 3 American consulting firms, Capvision, Mintz, and Bain & Company. Plus, a new Chinese law is rattling Western companies in China. The law expands the definition of espionage, but without clearly defining it. Under the rule, anyone that transfers information related to China's national security could be considered guilty of espionage. Back to Yellen's China trip. She's not expected to make any major breakthroughs. Before Yellen arrived, Beijing put restrictions on exporting 2 critical minerals used for making semiconductors. A former Chinese vice minister of commerce said the decision was made after thoughtful consideration, and that it was designed to cause panic in certain countries and exert heavy pain. So far, Yellen has expressed concerns about the export controls and Beijing's raids on American firms. She also met with Chinese Premier Li Qiang and former Chinese Vice Premier Liu He. Yellen said she hopes the trip would improve communications between the 2 countries. Her visit wraps up on Sunday.
Barbie's catchphrase is "You can do anything." But according to officials, that's everything except appear on Vietnam's silver screen. Warner Bros. Is pushing back on allegations against its new Barbie movie, with representatives denying the film supports Beijing's territory claims in the South China Sea. Controversy erupted after movie trailers highlighted a cartoon map of Barbie's travels. On it is a line of dashes in Asia extending into what would approximate the real South China Sea. Beijing's so-called 9-dash line claims much of those waters as Chinese, encroaching on areas that countries like Vietnam and the Philippines call their own. Vietnam banned the Barbie film over those concerns. A Warner Bros. Spokesperson denied the studio was pushing any kind of geopolitical message, and that the map simply spotlights the characters' journey lines through the real world after leaving Barbie Land. Some know it as ecstasy or Molly, but no matter the name, the synthetic psychoactive drug comes with a serious warning label, and a whopping 70 pounds of it just got seized in Virginia. U.S. Customs and Border Protection officers uncovered 2 boxes filled with the drug, labeled as beauty products and shipped from China. They discovered the white crystallized substance sealed in multiple vacuum bags. The chemical is currently regulated in the United States, though it's often sold in tablet or powder form on the street. Authorities warn the drug can cause loss of consciousness or even death. The two shipments were reportedly on their way to an address in Washington, D.C. The news soon sparked buzz online linked to Hunter Biden's drug controversy. The boxes have been transferred to Homeland Security's Investigations Department. Is 2024 the year TikTok gets banned from American smartphones? For Montana residents, that answer is yes, after their governor signed a first-in-the-nation complete ban on the Chinese-owned social media platform. But TikTok is fighting back, accusing the planned Montana ban of violating the First Amendment. On Wednesday, the company asked a U.S. judge to block the new rule, which is set to take effect on January 1st, 2024. TikTok also argues the ban is invalid because it involves a federal government issue. The company's Global Business Solutions president says the ban will cause irreversible harm to TikTok's business and brand. He says if the ban takes effect, advertisers and business partners will pull back from working with TikTok. U.S. lawmakers have repeatedly tried to ban the app, which is used by 150 million Americans, nearly half the U.S. population. That's over concerns about possible Beijing influence over it. Back to Montana, it's estimated that close to 400,000 people use TikTok in the state, or just over a third of its population. Montana could impose fines of $10,000 for each violation by TikTok, though the law does not impose penalties on individual TikTok users. Over in Europe, TikTok is also under fire in France. French senators published the results of an investigation into the Chinese video sharing app Friday. They say TikTok should not be described as a business, but rather as an intelligence operation. NTD's France correspondent David Vives spoke to some of the senators.
A wall of opacity. That's how French senators describe how TikTok executives conducted themselves during an inquiry.
We had questions about the business model. We had questions about advertising, and very concrete questions about cybersecurity and data storage. And the answers we got were all smiles.
The report pointed out the role of TikTok in the Chinese regime's cognitive warfare against the West. This includes the subversion of its users, as an intense use of TikTok can cut them off from their environment, education, history, and culture. One senator said TikTok is not a business, but rather an intelligence operation. Senator Maluret supports this point.
There's a second component, which is political, notably through data collection, disinformation, and a certain amount of fake news that doesn't exist at all on other platforms, but which is very present on TikTok.
The Commission said the Chinese platform should be given until January to comply with its recommendations. They include transparency on the company structure and to limit the use for minors to 60 minutes a day. If TikTok doesn't come clean in 6 months, the Commission said they will ask the government to ban it in France and give further recommendations to the EU Commission. A recent survey found while French law forbids under 13-year-olds to use TikTok, over 60% said they actually do use it. David Vives, NTD News, Paris.
Meta CEO Mark Zuckerberg is struggling to get his new Quest headsets on shelves in China, with the country's Communist Party seemingly refusing to forgive and forget his past criticisms. Since 2009, Facebook and its sister networks have been effectively banned in China due to the platform's refusal to comply with censorship. Zuckerberg even attempted to learn Mandarin and held meetings with Chinese officials in an effort to establish a presence in the country. But it was largely unsuccessful. In a 2019 speech, Zuckerberg lashed out at Chinese developer ByteDance and stated that its subsidiary TikTok posed a threat to American values. Later in a 2020 congressional hearing, Zuckerberg again reprimanded China, this time over intellectual property theft. According to the Wall Street Journal, Meta wants to follow Elon Musk's footsteps and negotiate with Chinese tech giant Tencent in person. But he may not anticipate a red carpet rollout after arriving in China, unlike the warm welcome Elon Musk received earlier this year. Zuckerberg questioned why tech counterparts like Apple and Tesla could trade in China, while Meta has remained on the sidelines. During his 2019 speech, he said he worked hard to make this happen, but we could never come to agreement on what it would take for us to operate there, and they never let us in. Now, he needs the support of the very officials he's criticized to accomplish his goals, something that could present a challenge for his virtual reality aspirations. Next, we look at a record-breaking number. This year, the DOJ has charged 49 Chinese Communist Party agents, the most in 2 decades. The suspects were involved in spying, stealing trade secrets, meddling in political elections, and suppressing dissidents on U.S. soil. Here's a recap.
In 2022, the DOJ brought charges against at least 17 individuals who sought to advance Beijing's interests in the U.S. That figure jumped to a minimum of 49 in the first half of this year, the highest since 2003. The most prominent of those cases, 2 men serving within the U.S. government. Last July, the DOJ indicted Craig Miller, a special agent with the Department of Homeland Security, and Derek Taylor, a former employee of the department. The 2 were found stalking and harassing U.S.-based critics of the Chinese regime. Both allegedly obtained information from a restricted U.S. federal law enforcement database before passing it along to CCP agents.
The Department of Homeland Security is one that safeguards the national security of the country, and even such a department has been infiltrated by the CCP. It's like Beijing has built a Trojan horse at the heart of the U.S. It's far more serious than other cases involving pro-communist leaders.
In other cases, a retired New York police officer and 2 Chinese nationals were convicted last month. They were found involved in Beijing's Operation Fox Hunt, a cross-border campaign designed to bring back expatriates. In May, 2 Los Angeles residents were charged with acting in a Beijing-directed scheme. Their targets are followers of the Falun Gong faith group in the U.S. 1 month earlier, 2 Chinese nationals were arrested for running a secret Chinese police station in New York. Similar outposts have been found across more than 50 locations worldwide. While the number of allegations is promising, analysts warn that the amount of CCP agents far exceeds those on record.
The FBI said they have handled more than 2,000 cases of pro-communist operations in the U.S. That amounts to 1 new investigation every 12 hours. But how many of those have led to actual indictments and arrests? Very few.
Chin added that the U.S. is off to a good start, but those in the free world should stay on alert.
Other big stories to look out for: the largest ever penalty hits an internet company in China, with the fine accounting to almost $1 billion. Could creating a site that rates people's looks get you in trouble? A detained Chinese graduate shares a cautionary tale. Those reports and more coming up Monday on China in Focus. That's all for today's China in Focus on YouTube. We're now sharing a shortened version of our program here after being demonetized for 2 years. Here's what to look out for in our second half: de-risk or decouple. Treasury Secretary Janet Yellen calling out China's punitive curbs against U.S. firms and warning that Washington will fight back. That's as she met with Chinese Premier Li Qiang in Beijing on Friday. Plus, fast, cheap, and controversial, Chinese online fashion retailer Shein is trying to salvage its reputation with help from influencers. We look at why it doesn't seem to be working. What's behind the fashion brand's sudden rise? We sat down with Casey Fleming, chairman and CEO of Black Ops Partners, for details on Yellen and China's psychological warfare tactics. The full episode is available on our partner platform, Epoch TV. To sign up, click the link down below. Thanks for watching China in Focus. I'm Tiffany Meyer. See you soon.